There are over 1,000 studies on creatine. It's easily the most well-researched supplement out there. Creatine is an amino-derived substrate which is synthesized in the body from methionine, arginine, and glycine. It's mainly stored in muscle cells. When creatine enters the body, it's stored as phosphocreatine. Phosphocreatine is used to rapidly regenerate adenosine triphosphate, ATP, during maximum muscle contractions. 2% of endogenously stored creatine is degraded each day into its metabolic byproduct, creatinine. And for most individuals, excluding vegans and vegetarians, 3 grams of exogenous
Today, Junior?
creatine, that is creatine consumed either through diet or supplementation, should be enough to maintain creatine stores. So now let's get into the benefits of creatine. Before I get into the lesser known benefits of creatine, I'm going to cover the most well-known benefits of creatine, and that is increased strength and muscle size. So as far back as 1999, Volek et al. Found that creatine supplementation significantly increased strength over a 12-week period. And that in that 12-week period, the participants were lifting heavy loads and it was a periodized plan. The positive benefits were attributed to creatine's ability to increase the creatine pool within the body, which led to a faster regeneration of ATP, basically more energy to the muscles, which allowed the participants to maintain a higher intensities during their workout, and just led to better workouts over the 12-week period. In 2007, Cribbs et al. Found that creatine not only increased 1 RM, it also increased muscle size and cross-sectional area in resistance-trained males. So part of the reason that we find creatine increasing size is due to the creatine's ability to pull water into the muscle cells, known as cell volumization. And what this does is this can induce cell swelling over time, which increases muscular protein synthesis, leading to more gains. Creatine can improve brain function. A 2011 study found that creatine improved brain function in those suffering from sleep-deprived and age-related declines in brain function. And the reason this may occur is the fact that the brain also relies on ATP as well, and creatine increases the production of ATP. It's still not a strongly researched area, but there's going to be more research in the future, but it has been shown in a few other studies as well to improve memory, and this is especially the case in vegetarians and vegans. Creatine may help lower blood sugar levels. In 2011, a study by Giuliano et al. Found that creatine supplementation helped with the glycemic control of type 2 diabetes patients. One of the mechanisms thought to assist this out is the increase in GLUT4 recruitment, which transported more glucose to the muscle cells. Creatine may also positively affect your mood. A 2012 rodent study by Allen et al. Found that creatine reduced depression. And a study by Rotman et al., it was a small-scale human study, found that 3 to 5 grams of creatine daily decreased depression in bipolar patients. Creatine can enhance post-exercise recovery. Cook and Associates looked at the effects of creatine on muscle force recovery and muscle damage after an intense exercise protocol. They found that the group supplemented with creatine saw significant increases in knee extension strength after experiencing muscle damage. Before I talk about the dosing, I'm going to talk about some myths. Let's just tackle some myths first. This is not a myth, there are some creatine non-responders and creatine responders, those who respond better to creatine and those who don't respond as well. And generally speaking, those who respond better are those with lower creatine stores in the body already. And generally speaking, vegetarians and vegans have lower stores in the body due to not consuming any through diet. Creatine exists in meat and fish. Well, when I say fish, I mean seafood in generally. So vegans and vegetarians will not be eating these food groups, so will not be getting sufficient amounts from their diet. I've heard, this is anecdotally, people, well, vegans I know, using creatine, getting like reporting like insane strength benefits. But if you are a vegan or vegetarian watching this, it's definitely something to bear in mind. And then you have people with more fast twitch muscle fibers, more type 2 muscle fibers who respond better to creatine than people with more slow twitch muscle fibers, those with more type 1 muscle fibers. Complete non-responders to creatine, they're rare, but they do exist. So it's better just to give it a try yourself. It's extremely inexpensive, and I'm gonna get into this more shortly, but it's extremely safe as well. It's extremely well researched. I keep saying extremely, but yeah, you can tell I like creatine. The best form and the most researched form of creatine is creatine monohydrate. And some people are afraid of taking creatine because of potential liver and kidney issues. And because most of it's synthesized in the liver and kidneys, people think instantly that, oh yeah, that means it's gonna mess up the liver and kidneys. But that's not the case. In the literature, there is no evidence to suggest that it damages the kidneys and liver. Maybe in people with pre-existing conditions, but generally speaking, if you're a healthy adult, it's not gonna mess you up. So there's also the fear of hair loss as well. Creatine has been shown in one study to increase DHT, I think it was one study, and testosterone, and people instantly thought that, okay, it increases DHT equals hair loss, that means if I take creatine, I'm gonna lose my hair. But in that particular study, hair loss was not assessed. And in 2012, Jose Antonio, who's big in the creatine research world, actually suggested that there's not enough evidence even to suggest that creatine increases DHT or testosterone as well. So that gets rid of that myth. And I can't think of any other myths. There's also the one that creatine is a steroid. It's definitely not a steroid. It's basically a mix, well, it is a mix of amino acids. So it's perfectly safe to take, and you don't have to cycle creatine. Now for the fun part, to get into the dosing. Some people think you have to cycle creatine or it stops working, you have to stop taking it. There's been many studies where people have been using it for years on end, and I've heard of loads of anecdotal pieces of evidence where people say they've been using it for like 15 years, for like 10 years, like there's all sorts. But the main point is no side effects, even with long-term use. You don't have to cycle it. When it comes to dosing, you can go down two paths. You can go down a path of loading, which means your muscles saturate with creatine faster. The only problem with loading, I'll get into exactly how to load shortly, is that you can experience weight gain. If you're in a sport where you don't want to gain weight, then it's probably best not to do that. But if you're in a sport where you want to increase the saturation levels fast and you want to get the maximum benefits faster, I do suggest loading. One other problem with loading, you may experience some GI distress when loading, and that's been reported in the literature because you're taking a much higher dose than you're going to when you do the maintenance phase, which follows this. So with loading, it's 5 to 7 days of 20 grams a day or 0.3 grams per kilo of body weight. That's split into 4 even doses. You could just drink it with water on an empty stomach, chuck it into your protein shake post-workout. I have a preference for taking creatine post-workout because most of the literature suggests that the muscle contractions actually increase the absorption of creatine, the blood flow. The blood will act like as a carrier to the muscle cells to increase the absorption and uptake of creatine. So that was another myth actually, that you have to take it with sugar to increase, or something that contains sugar to increase its uptake. and was largely in the initial research. Then they found that the muscle contractions actually increase the uptake and absorption of creatine more so. So I just put it in my post-workout protein shake, just dump like between 5 to 10 grams. And I almost forgot the maintenance phase. So you can either do 3 to 5 grams a day to maintain creatine stores after that 5 to 7 day loading phase, or you can do what I do and what Dr. Darren Kandal recommends is another possibility. Take 0.1 gram per kilo body weight. So I take around 10 grams a day, and I take that in my post-workout protein shake. And the other method, apart from loading, is just to take creatine over a longer period of time and just wait for it to saturate, wait for yourself to get the maximum benefits. You don't exactly know when it's going to come about, but you'll likely experience increases in strength and increase in muscle size. You will gain weight on creatine. That's the one side effect, so just bear that in mind. And it's largely due to over time, the muscle mass, and largely due to the more water in the muscle cell. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and you found it useful. I appreciate you watching this video, especially if you got to this point of the video. Give it a massive thumbs up if you enjoyed it, share it with a friend, and until the next video, keep pushing those limits.